Phil Dixon with another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. Just want to welcome you and let you know that we're having a great time here. If you are joining me on a Saturday, this would be the January 3rd, 2025 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. By all means, enjoy yourself. Let me get a little more light here. Yeah, that really brightens the place up a little bit. All right. So now that the lights are on, I guess we're playing a night game here. I want to thank everybody for joining. If you like what I'm doing here, go ahead and be sure to subscribe. And again, my name is Phil S. Dixon. I'm a baseball historian and author. So let's get ready to jump in and go to work on these baseball historic facts. So we're going to start off with something that occurred on January the 3rd, 1908. And Chief of Police Henry C. Baker closed ball player Roscoe Lyons. He had a saloon there in Racine, Wisconsin. And it was the first time that a saloon close order had been executed in the city's history. Yeah, they said that Lyons was operating the bar, but the license was in the name of another person. I guess you couldn't do that. Now, who was the Lyons? Roscoe Lyons. I'm telling you, he's more important than you think he is. Now, if you go, say you go to AI or you try to Google his name, you're not going to find anything. But let me tell you why he's important. I can think of a few other people like that too. See, here's the important thing. I wrote a book on the 1910 Chicago Leland Giants. And of course, one of their pitchers who had joined the team in 1909 was a guy by the name of Pat Doherty. And Pat Doherty had originally come from the West Baden Sprudels that same year, 1909. He joined up with Blue Foster, great left-handed pitcher, really good, one of the all-time best left-handers during that period. However, you can't find out where he came from before. That's unless you know how to dig for this information. So Roscoe Lyons is the one that brought Pat Doherty into prominence, you might say, with the Racine Giants in 1907. Pat Doherty was pitching for them. So if you never heard of the Racing Giants, you won't know that Pat Doherty got his start there. And if you go and maybe look at his bio, I'm sure you won't find that information there. And you won't find that information on Mr. Roscoe Lyons either. So, but these are people that I think you ought to know about. And so I'm going to tell you about them, all right? Because these are all people who play some kind of prominent role. Sometimes it's not prominent. Maybe it's a small role in Black baseball history. I can think of another guy from my hometown, a guy by the name of Fred Pallas. Fred Pallas operated the Pallas Colts, and he had a teenage team there. And he was the one who started off Dick Whitworth and Wilbur Bullet Rogan. And Rogan, of course, today is in the Cooperstown Hall of Fame. And but if you go back and you check only the ball is white, you'll see that Peterson wrote in there that Rogan started off with the Pullman Colts. No, it was Fred Pallas's team, the Pallas Colts. And he had a fish market down on Fifth Street. So anyway, Fifth Street was like a main thoroughfare. It still kind of is, but not like it used to be in our African-American community. So anyway, if you're joining me, by all means, let me know where you're joining from, and that would be great. And let's see, I am trying to follow you guys the best I can. But yeah, just let me know where you're from. Somebody says hello. I'm not sure where you're from. I'm trying to remember some of these names because some of you guys keep coming back over and over again, right? If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and subscribe, man. We had a lot of subscribers coming yesterday. So, all right. So let's go to another baseball fact. This one occurred January the 3rd, 1925. A three-run rally in the ninth inning gave the Los Angeles White Sox a 5-4 win over the minor league All-Stars in California Winter League action. Robert Hudspeth of Hubbard, Texas, is where he comes from, pitched a complete game. Now, George Carr, the first baseman, who was a veteran Negro Leaguer, played for Hilldale, the Baltimore Black Sox, played for the Kansas City Monarchs, but he was from California. He went 2 for 4, But guess what? That wasn't the best day of any of his teammates. Connie Day, yeah, Connie Day, who had played for the Indianapolis ABCs, he was a featured hitter that day. He went 4 for 4. He homered and had a pair of doubles and scored a pair of runs in the victory. And also, Sylvester Foreman came in as a pinch hitter late in the game, and he hit a double. Interesting thing about Sylvester Foreman, I knew his sister. I actually interviewed his sister. I think she was living in Detroit when I interviewed her many years ago. And she was able to give me lots of information. They came from a town in Oklahoma called Foreman, Oklahoma, because it was named after their family, Foreman, Oklahoma. And Sylvester Foreman is buried in Coffeyville, Kansas. And I've been there and put flowers at his grave in Coffeyville. So, yeah, so anyone's, let me know where you're calling from. I mean, where you're calling from, where you're watching from. Usually your names are so unique. I don't bother with the names. But I do want to know where you're listening from. All right. That's more important for me because I've traveled extensively and been all over the country. Right. So I won't remember your names and most people won't know you, but they may know those cities and that'll give them an idea of where you're listening from. So anyway, that was January 3rd, 1925. Let's go one more year, advance one more year. January 3rd, 1926. We're going to stay on the California Winter League coast. Clyde Barfoot served up 11 hits as the Philadelphia Royal Giants, lost 8-3 to the White King Soap Company team. And that was in California Winter League action. And Crush Holloway featured with a trio of hits, which included a double and a stolen base in the Giants' losing effort. Now, Barfoot, let me get that thing, Barfoot was certainly a dominant pitcher in the minor leagues. He would win over 25 years. Now, you got to think about this, guys. Nobody wants to stay in the minor leagues for 25 years, but this guy was in the minor leagues for 25 years, 1914 to 1938. He did have a little cup of coffee, what they call a cup of coffee. That's when you come up to the big leagues and you don't stay very long. That's either American National League. He did have a cup of coffee, maybe more than one occasion. But he certainly had an extensive minor league career. Just imagine this, guy. This guy won over 314 games in the minor leagues as a pitcher. So he's a legitimate pitcher. And these are guys that these Negro Leaguers are playing against. And many times people ask me, well, they put up such big numbers. Who do they play against? This gives you an idea of who they were playing against, right? Clyde Barfoot. Look him up. I guarantee you, many of you have never heard of him unless you're a real serious baseball fan. Now, you probably heard of this guy with my next fact that happened on January 3rd, 1947. No, we're going to go back. Let's go January 3rd, 1932. Then we'll do 1947. Leroy Satchel Paige, you heard of him, right? He struck out 12 of the Los Angeles, while pitching for the Los Angeles Philadelphia Royal Giants. And he struck out 12 of the Los Angeles White Kings. Now, remember, that was the team that Barfoot was playing for, right? And he won 3-2. So Satchel Paige ended up getting the victory there against the White Kings. And a home run by Raleigh Biz Mackey figured in the Giants' win. And Biz Mackey is today a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. So do you know about these guys? How serious are you about the Negro Leagues, all right? Now, if you're joining me now, let me know where you're joining from. I'd love to know that, okay? So people ask a lot of questions. They throw a lot of different curveballs at me. But one of the things I love doing is knowing where you're from, all right? So, okay, so we're dancing right along. If you want to stay, hop in here and stay with me. So Satchel Paige, yeah, he was one of the all-time greats. He is buried here in Kansas City, Missouri. And I've been out to his place where he's buried many times. And if you ever go look up his monument, it has a little poetic saying on the back of that monument. And I'm the one who wrote that. That was probably about either 90 or 89 that I wrote that. So if you ever come to hear me speak, I do actually speak poetry in my talks. Yeah, so I'm doing a little bit of everything. I may bring my trumpet along. Typically I do. And so I may play some music. But I'm going to give you baseball history like you've never heard before. So multifaceted, kind of like some of these ball players I talk about. We're doing more than just talking baseball here. We're entertaining you and um, keeping you focused on this topic by any means necessary. Okay. So all right then. So let's go to okay. Now we're going to go to January 3rd, 1947. Now, the Los Angeles Red Devils, that's a professional basketball team out on the West Coast, with Jackie Robinson in a basketball uniform, tied with the San Francisco All Nations basketball team in a 37-37 battle. And then, how about this? Ive Noren, play for the Yankees, is uh, is in the game also. I think he was playing for the All Nations team, and they played at Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles. Now, Olympic Auditorium is still there. It was famous for wrestling matches, boxing matches. There was a kid that from my hometown named Tommy Campbell who fought there all the time. He had a great battle at the Olympic Auditorium against a guy by the name of Art Aragon. Art Aragon was the original, what we say, Golden Boy, and so he came out with he was a Mexican American, had the golden trunks, and he came out and played. So Art Aragon. Also, there's a movie called with Audie Murphy called To Hell and Back. It's kind of like his life story, and there's a guy in there who plays a Mexican American. That's Art Aragon. So if you ever see that movie, yeah, he was a pretty famous boxer, and of course he met a guy from my hometown who actually grew up across the street from me. He was older; he was gone by then, but his mother still lived in the family home, and he fought Art Aragon there, right there in the Olympic Auditorium, the same place where Jackie Robinson played baseball. And if you ever get out to Los Angeles now, the building is still there. It's a Korean church. All right, so I hope to go in there someday. So I mentioned that before. All right, so let's gonna go. We're gonna jump all the way up into some modern times. How about January 3rd, 2002? Alonzo Eugene Smith. Let me get a drink of water here. Yeah, Alonzo Eugene Smith, formerly of the Cleveland Buckeyes, Cleveland Indians, Baltimore Orioles, and Boston Red Sox, also the Chicago White Sox, passed away in Hammond, Indiana at age 73. He was born in Kirkwood, Missouri, what is considered like a suburb of St. Louis. So um, I don't know how much you know about Smith, but I'll tell you this. He became the feature of one of baseball's most iconic images. In the picture, we see a fan accidentally spilling beer on his head during the 1959 World Series. And the photo was widely circulated, and Smith estimated he has signed around 200,000 copies of it over the years. Now, that's interesting. So, sometimes I don't take things at face value. I want to look around, right? So I decided to go out to eBay and see how many um, signed copies of this photograph I could find, because evidently he signed a lot. Well, I think a lot of these photographs, either they're in personal collections or they haven't been put on eBay. There's lots of things signed by him on eBay, but I only saw maybe two of these photographs of those 200,000 that he said he signed that were on eBay. So hopefully, if I'm around St. Louis, Chicago, or somewhere, maybe I'll find one there, and maybe I'll purchase one for my own collection. So, yeah, anybody, if you're listening there, go ahead and be sure to subscribe. And anybody join me in the rebroadcast, I give you the same invitation to follow me. Yeah, keep following me. We're doing some interesting things here, dropping a lot of knowledge. We're dropping some knowledge like you wouldn't believe right here daily. And so, all right. So that is Alfonso Eugene Smith. Of course, on baseball cards, he was seen as Al Smith, and well, he was in a number of Topps card sets. He was also, I think, in the Bowman TV cards from 1955. I think I had that one. I had that set nearly complete many years ago, and that is a really tough set to complete in near mint condition. But I had a pretty good set on that. So since I've sold that set many years ago, but it's still one of my favorites. All right, so we got one more fact that I want to go over. And of course, I never got a chance to interview Al Smith, but I did read many interviews that he had done with other people. So now this guy actually had his phone number, all right? And this name is Bob Andrew Veal. Now, on January the 3rd, 2025, Bob Andrew Veal, baseball pitcher and coach, a left-hander who played from 1962 through 1974 for the Pittsburgh Pirates and Boston Red Sox, passed away. Yeah, and so he was a great one. He was certainly a great one. Played basketball at Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas, and on a scholarship. Originally, he was from Birmingham, Alabama, and he used to work the concession stand. How about this? At Rickwood Field. So just imagine going from Birmingham, and I tell you, it had to be a stretch, going from Birmingham and then coming to Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas. I've not actually been to Benedictine College. I knew some people who graduated from there, and I've presented in Atchison many times. So hopefully one of these days I'll get a chance to go there. And most people didn't know that he was a great basketball player. Yeah, Phil was a great basketball player, but he was a tremendous left-handed pitcher. How about this? While pitching for the Columbus, Ohio Jets, this is a minor league team, August 10th, 1962, he set an International League record for the most strikeouts in a game with 22 against the Buffalo Bisons. And you can see when you get in the 60s, boy, those leagues really started to change. The International League that used to be on the East Coast almost exclusively, now it's in the Midwest. And of course, that used to be, Columbus used to be the Redbirds in the old American Association. So when you're dealing with history, you start to learn all of these organizations and these movements. Also, I'm trying to think of his name, Gene Baker. Gene Baker, I think, was one of the first black coaches or managers in what they call, the minor leagues of the National American League, those minor league feeder teams. And he was a manager with the Columbus Jets. How about that? Okay, so I don't know if they were there at the same time. Of course, Baker was in the Pittsburgh organization. So how about this? Ville led the National League with 250 strikeouts in 1964, and he was famous that year for edging out Bob Gibson on the final day of the season to win that strikeout total. And you beat Bob Gibson in strikeouts, you were doing something. So he was somebody to contend with, right? And his career high of 276 strikeouts in 1965 remains a Pittsburgh Pirates modern day single season record. And he passed away on January 3rd, 2005. So lots of things you can get autographed by him as well. So that kind of does it for me. I do want to make sure that I recognize a few people here today. Well, one thing I want to make sure is that I'm working with a group now, and we're trying to highlight some of the things that happen in the upper Midwest in baseball history as it concerns to African Americans. So we want to talk about that. For instance, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, there was a great ball player by the name of Congo Collins. You ever heard of him? Yeah, we want you to know about him, right? And but anyway, the website is going to be sdsportshistory.com, and there's some interesting things there. Not only baseball, but basketball and track and field. They used to have the NAIA national meets there in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and so they have film from those. Bob Hayes and all those guys running from the HBCU colleges would come there. Yeah, and so that is something that I want to mention to you, so you can follow that. And then also, just received this book here, and I'm going to go through it here. This one was by it's about actually Johnny Wright, who actually was with Jackie Robinson. He was one of the people who the Brooklyn Dodgers signed, and he went to the minor leagues with Jackie Robinson. Now, if you watch the movie 42, they don't tell you that there were two black guys there with Jackie, actually at different times. The first one was John Wright, who played with the Grays, and he was there. And this is his daughter. His daughter worked on this book with a guy named Frederick Bush, and that's Carlos Wright Robinson. And I just talked to her recently. Her and her husband was celebrating 50 years of marriage, right? So I just talked to her recently, and we exchanged books. So she sent me hers, and I sent her one of my books too. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. I can't wait to read it, and I may talk about this book too. And it's always interesting to have a book written by a family member because they tend to bring out things that you would never know and things you're not going to be able to look up, by going through old newspapers. They're going to give you a true life story of their loved one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Is the Right Side of History is the name of this book here. You got to see the right side of history. So thank you very much, Carlos, and you and your husband for being a good support. So anyway, guys, once again, that does it for me. This is the January 3rd, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. Feel free to come back and join me. We're trying to get to, as soon as we can, to 500 subscribers. We're moving right along the way, so everything is moving real good. So anyway, I try to keep my broadcast right around 20 minutes, and so I'm about almost 2 minutes past my time, so I'm going to get out of here. I do appreciate you joining me today, and I'll see you real soon with another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. Keep it coming, guys. Keep on coming back. Bye.